we're so excited to talk to you about this because what a cool series, and
Yeah.
this has been something I've really enjoyed, and probably you probably excited about the way it turned out, and for people to get a chance to check it out, right?
Oh, absolutely. No, I'm honored to be a part of it. Phil Gillette, the director, is a dear friend. I've known him for about 10 years. But also, so not only that, the other four writers that are on, they're friends and they're people that I admire. So it was it was exciting to be on, but even more exciting to be on with all those writers.
Yeah, absolutely. And here we go through the teacher, which if you can tell us a bit about that for the people at home, because it's really cool.
Yeah, it's a weird, disturbing short story. It opens up with like these kids in an AP history class, and the teacher is sort of like the stereotype of the cool teacher. Like he dresses sort of young, is into music, blah blah blah. But he starts off by saying, "Hey, I'm going to show you guys the real lessons." And he shows this really grainy, disturbing video of a daycare where someone teaching at the daycare sort of loses their cool, takes one of the kids, spins him, and then lets go. But he pauses the video so you don't see the kid presumably hit the wall. And so the
Mhm.
lessons sort of deteriorate from there. And he starts showing them, horrible videos. And as this is happening, sort of the students' lives are deteriorating and his physicalness sort of deteriorates and it goes into weird and disturbing more places from there. How's that for the elevator or anti-elevator?
Yeah, that's great. Well, and the thing is that it comes from an interesting place because you were a teacher before as well, right?
Yeah, and still am. I've been a high school teacher for a really math teacher for a really long time. So yeah,
Amazing.
clearly when I wrote that, geez, that was like 2007. Some of the anxieties I was experiencing about being a teacher found their way into that story.
Yeah. Well, now there's a wonderful line in there. It says, "We love him because he is the promise that growing old doesn't mean becoming irrelevant." And probably something that you've thought about being a teacher yourself, and also someone that still does really cool stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's whether you're a teacher or a writer, I think that's something everybody, thinks. It's a pretty universal thought. Like you don't want to, especially in the West where youth culture is so celebrated, like it's very easy for, obviously older people to be forgotten or feel forgotten, no matter if you're an artist or a teacher.
Hmm. And so, as far as these kids go, when they find out, what it is that you do otherwise, and now, of course, guy goes
Yeah.
over to film stuff. They got to think that's pretty cool, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's to the point. I mean, I've got posters and stuff in my room, so I'm not like hiding, that I write. And, so I typically teach freshmen, so that's like 15 years old. And then I have some seniors, which are more like 17, 18. So the younger kids, I'm still just their math teacher. And I've said in like low moments when the kids are giving me grief, like, hey, outside of this classroom, there are people that think I'm actually cool. And they're like, no, that's not true. So I mean, honestly, I don't think the dynamic changes that much. I think every once in a while you'll see a kid be like, "Hey, what was it like writing that book?" Or "Hey, what was it like, on the set of that movie?" But then it switches back to, "You gave me homework. I hate you."
That's so funny. Well, when these kids ask you, because I know people look up to you and other authors look up to you. What kind of advice do you give them? Because it's certainly you make it look easier than it is. It's hard to write a book and get it out there.
Yeah. I mean, I don't give a ton of writing advice to kids. They don't usually ask for writing advice. They ask for more just like general stuff. But what I like, what I hope students at my school think that I think is cool, and I hope they like it too, is that they say, "Hey, here's someone who's teaching math and writing books." Like it wasn't like his life was set in stone. You can't. It's not that you can't pursue your passion. I think the lesson that hopefully everybody learns eventually, hopefully earlier than I did, is like it's cool to like things. It's okay to pursue your passion. So if I'm a role model anyway for the students, I hope it's that like, hey, you don't have to go to business school and just do that and be miserable, because I presume most people are miserable after they do that. You can pursue art. Art is worth it. Art is, even if it doesn't sell, it's worth going, it's worth the process of it is worth doing. Um, yeah, I mean, as far as adults, like, yeah, I have no idea. But like, in terms of like, I don't know, because I teach a full-time job, I don't know. I don't know how to answer that part of the question, like the
Yeah.
inspiration part. But yeah,
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's a part of it is just kind of going forward, and our my co-host Drew Pearson, one of our great Dallas Cowboys, caught the Hail Mary, went in the Hall of
Oh,
Fame.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
and so we
I'm a
love.
sports fan. No, I didn't know he was your co-host. That's cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's the best. He really is, and he caught the Hail Mary, and so we love to ask people their Hail Mary moment, which is that moment in your life or career where you just had to go for it and it worked out for you. What do you suppose that was for you?
Oh boy. I think it was. I don't know if I did anything that put myself at risk, but my novel, A Head Full of Ghosts, was a huge Hail Mary. I had written a couple of crime novels. Even though my whole writing life, I was writing horror short stories. I just
Hmm.
happened to write a couple crime novels. So I don't imagine myself ever as being a crime writer. Those novels didn't do well. So then I got dropped by my publisher. Spent a few years being, uh, pissy and miserable. And then I wrote this weird book, A Head Full of Ghosts. It was a horror novel. And I didn't tell my agent until like I was partway through it. So yeah, he was definitely not sure because he never sold horror. And when we were trying to sell the book in 2014, horror wasn't really selling, certainly not like it is now. So that book felt like a Hail Mary. And when it first when it first got sent out, 7 editors were interested, but then they all backed out at the last minute for a variety of reasons. And that's when I felt like the Hail Mary crashed.
Yeah,
But luckily, we tried a few more editors and we hit with my editor, Jennifer Brell at William Morrow. She saved me, and that book did really well. So yeah, that was writing a horror novel in 2013 was a Hail Mary at the time.
yeah. Well, part of that is, we talk about that on the show too, is that success mindset that you have to have, whether or not you're feeling it or not. And, as
Yeah.
creative types, we're hard on ourselves. So is there something you tell yourself that kind of keeps you on the right path, even when the words aren't coming to you?
Yeah, that's a great question. I try to ignore the doubts as much as I can. Part of that just comes through practice. Like if you just write every day, usually the doubts are there at the start, and then you can kind of fall away from it. Um, but yeah, it's hard. I think honestly, one of the biggest disappointments of my writing life is I thought it would get easier and that the doubts would go away. It's like, oh no, they're there. They're not going away. So I think it's more just that I'm used to them. So maybe it's a little bit easier to dismiss them because they're always there.
Yeah, yeah. Those are the ghosts, right?
Yeah.
After this, I can't wait to see what you got next for us. What do you have coming up?
So I have a novel coming out this summer. It's actually a middle grade novel, so for middle schoolers. It's called Another, and it's not like a full planned career pivot. I just happen to have an idea for a book written from the point of view of a 12-year-old. So I don't feel like I wrote it any differently than I wrote my adult novel. So hopefully some adult readers will still check it out and like it, and hopefully kids who like being scared will read it as well. So that's coming out this summer. Otherwise, I'm hard at work at my next adult novel, which is due to my publisher in May. So I'm I'm almost, well, I don't want to say I'm almost there, but I'm hoping to make the deadline. I think I will. I'm gonna knock on wood, even though I'm not superstitious.
Yeah. Well, and of course, just like a lot of great horror novels and stories here, there's with the teacher, there's it's meant for entertainment, but in this, there's something to learn here, right? Or discuss.
Yeah, well, I mean, certainly it's not how to be a teacher, that's
Right.
for sure. Uh, I think I tend to think of my horror stories as or horror stories in general. They reveal a terrible truth. All stories reveal some sort of truth. And the point of writing them is it reveals something that it's really hard to say directly. So you say it in like the emotional language of story. So in a horror story, it's a horrible truth that's revealed. But I weirdly find that hopeful. And the reason why is as a reader, if I read something that I connect with, even though if it's terrible, I'm like, oh, that writer or that movie or that director, they feel that way too. And that makes me feel less alone. So even though horror, obviously is disturbing, can be nasty, I find it hopeful.
Yeah, absolutely. And what was your first introduction to horror? Was it a movie? Was it a show? Was it something?
Yeah, it was movies for me. So as like a 7, 8, 9 year old in the Boston area, pre-cable, I'm really aging myself. On the weekends, there was a program called Creature Double Feature,
Yeah,
and the first movie was always a Godzilla, Gamera, kaiju movie, and that was what drew me in because I like dinosaurs. And then the
yeah.
second movie was was a horror movie, and those gave me nightmares. But I kept watching. So yeah, that was Creature Double Feature is what sort of got me here.
And what is it that scares you now?
Oh, everything. I feel like the Hulk in the Avengers, the first Avengers movie says, his secret is that he's always angry. I'm always scared.
Yeah.
No, it's hard to shut the anxiety scared brain off. Like I still run up the basement stairs if it's dark.
Oh yeah.
If it's if my wife's not here for some reason or the kids are gone, I'm in the house by myself, all the lights are on. So yeah.
Well, then of course, but now there's the great comfort in horror, and it's all, the genre itself is alive and well. So it's a good time to be doing what you do, right?
It is for sure. I still hope, my hope that horror doesn't become too comfortable. Like I still want it to be to make people uncomfortable, to make you squirm. I think that's horror's job.
Yeah, well, you're doing a good job of it, and we can't wait
Thanks.
for those next couple of books. Congrats on everything, and I'm going to tell everyone to check this out because it's just such a cool series.
Well, thank you, Paul. I really appreciate that.
All right, thanks so much. We'll see you soon.
Okay,
Okay,
thanks.
appreciate you.
Bye.
Okay, bye.